If you're like me, you need to create to feel fulfilled. Without creating, you feel lost, empty, and like you're doing life wrong. In the age of the attention economy, it's easy to think that your creations aren't worth anything because you don't have the right audience for them yet. You see others getting hundreds, thousands, and even millions of views. You compare that to your work and you think that it's not worthy of anything. You compare yourself and feel inadequate, like it's not worth making anything at all. I wanted to remind you that people like you and me have existed since the cavemen learned to paint, and they didn't need TikTok to tell their stories. It's worth sticking it out, and it'll change you for the better forever. Wait around for the final tip to find out why. The attention that you'll receive should be a byproduct of what you're going to make anyway. So the same process of you sitting down in your studio or getting that canvas ready or whatever you do, you're going to be going through that process anyway. You're going to be making stuff anyway. So you should actually just get it out and put it into the public and let the world see it. Let others share in that experience, that joy that you feel from sitting down in that creative space and just making what you're going to make. Although it's super cliche, the joy comes in the process, not the final result. So it's all in the journey and all that. But if you don't enjoy the journey, you'll never actually get far enough to reap the rewards of the final result. Your motivation will end, and if discipline doesn't kick in, you'll give up before you even get close to getting to the finish line. Minus the exceptions that went viral overnight and got very, very lucky, almost like winning the lottery. Your favourite artist spent hundreds and hundreds of hours in the dark making their work without anyone seeing it. Before they actually found their audience, they spent hours and hours and hours owning that craft and getting good at what they wanted to actually put in front of people. Their views were in the hundreds. They had 50 monthly listeners on Spotify, but they kept going anyway, and they kept going and they kept going up until a point where you heard that song on Spotify, or you saw that piece of art on Instagram, or you saw that amazing video on YouTube. They worked super hard to get to that point, but all you see is the pinnacle. You know, you see them at their peak probably after they've blown up, when they've already gone through all that hard work and that slog. They kept going and they kept going and they kept going. So one day you finally saw them at their peak or close to it, and you only saw them at their best, but you didn't see the steps that it took to actually get them there. It's easy to forget that everyone has to prove themselves to their audience, to the algorithm, but most of all to themselves. It's a lot of hard work to actually achieve your dreams and get to where you want to be. And if you can't do that when no one's watching, then you don't deserve to be at the top anyway. It's just a hard, cold truth, to be honest. So I'm posting this with 10 subscribers on YouTube at the moment. My best video has 230 views. I'm a baby in the eyes of YouTube, you know what I mean? I've not even made a dent in what I need to do, but I'm still making this video anyway, you know what I mean? I'm still posting this, I'm still sat here recording this, because I know that you've got to take those first 999 steps before that 1000th step actually gets you anywhere and you start benefiting from it. No one's gonna watch this, you know what I mean? I know already that this is how they're gonna get any views. Yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying just getting these thoughts out. You know, I thoroughly enjoyed writing these thoughts down in my laptop and just making sense of these silly little things that go on in my head. You know, it's comforting to actually get things out on the page and get things out and speak to the camera like this. I am the furthest from an expert you could be on making content, you know what I mean? I've hardly even started yet, but I feel like I can still provide value to people in a similar position to me, the same way that I've watched tons of videos from content creators still making their way, and I've learned a lot from them because I know they're in the same position of me. You know what I mean? Someone like Mr. Beast, who is just at the height of YouTube, he can never give advice on how to grow at this point because he's already been at that peak for years and years and years. You know what I mean? He might have been able to 10 years ago, but I don't really want to take YouTube advice from Mr. Beast. I'd rather listen to people who are actually on my level, who I can learn from. Obviously people that are further ahead than me as well, but honestly, like, I find it hard to relate to these YouTubers that are so big that they don't really know what it's like to grow from scratch again, because when they did it 10 years ago, things were very, very different for them. So I just hope that I can push small creators to be better, the same way that small creators push me to be better, and my favourite artists and the people that I look up to, they push me to be the best version of myself. Because at the end of the day, you never really know who's watching, you know. Even if 10 people watch this, 10 people sat in a room listening to what you have to say for 10 minutes, that's quite significant. And then obviously the more views you get when it gets into the hundreds and the thousands, if you actually imagine all those people sat in a room listening to what you have to say and paying you attention, giving you that precious time of day, it does count for something. I feel like in a day now where every day you see TikTok and Instagram reels with hundreds of thousands and millions of views, you forget that all of those are actually people, bar the bot accounts. Let's not count them, but you forget those are real people, you know what I mean, with real lives and stories and grandparents, and they fall in love and they go to school and they go to work, you know what I mean. Those are all real people. So if you remember that there's actually someone behind that screen and someone behind that number, I feel like that thought can be quite comforting and can help you get through the stage that I'm going through at the moment, where I know that hardly anyone is watching. Someone listening to you talk for 10 minutes, or listening to your song for 3 minutes, or watching your video for 5 minutes, that's a significant act, you know what I mean. You've got their attention to a point where there is a million different things pulling away their attention in all sorts of different directions, but they're still choosing to sit and listen to you, and that is significant in my eyes. That means something. So I try to just keep this in mind when I compare myself to my favourite creators, and I look at other videos and I watch other people. It's a long way away to achieving your dreams. It's a long road to the top. So you might as well take every step with a smile. You know what I mean? You might as well actually learn how to enjoy the process and find comfort in that monotony and that cycle and that routine, because if you don't get into that routine and get consistent with it, you're just never going to get anywhere, which is the cold hard truth. So finally, the biggest reason why you should post with no audience is that quantity creates quality. Quantity is the only way to actually beat perfectionism. So the little thoughts in your head that when you make a song or you make a bit of art or you do a design and you're like, oh, is this any good? I don't know if I like that, I could make that better. If you force yourself to publicly post that work every week or every day, that forces you to just push past those thoughts and actually look at the bigger picture. Do you know what I mean? Like those tiny little decisions, those micro decisions that you have to make when you are going through the process of creating something, if you have a limit on that and you've put pressure on yourself to actually complete that project, then you don't have time to stress about the little things. You have to look at the bigger picture, do the best that you can do with that idea in the moment, because just from experience, be doing music production, there is hundreds of thousands of decisions that go into making a song. Do you know what I mean? Every tiny little detail, especially when you write the music yourself as well, you play some of the instruments, you're doing all that yourself. So many decisions, and it's so easy to get stuck on something and never make any progress. I would literally spend months and months on one song instead of just accepting that song was done, move on and make something better. I'd hold myself back by making the same thing and just trying to tweak it and make it better over and over again, when really that idea was gone, you know what I mean? That idea was done. I should have moved on to something better. And it took me years of making music, like years, to actually learn this. And I learned the hard way, because looking back, I missed out on so many songs and I deprived myself of so much art because I was just so stuck on these ideas. While you're learning a skill, you're just simply never going to make something truly great at first, because there's so much to learn. You'll never sound like your favourite artists, or read like your favourite authors, or shoot like your favourite cinematographer. You know what I mean? It takes so long to actually develop the skills to get there, that when you compare your work as a beginner to the artist that you look up to, it does dishearten you, it does hurt, because you see how much better the final product is of these people that have been doing it for years. But as again, going back to my previous point, you don't see the work it took them to get there. You don't see the crappy art that they made over and over again to learn how to actually make something good. You just don't see that. So you simply need to fail over and over again until those failures turn into a routine. The things that you wouldn't struggle with, after you overcome those problems so many times, they'll get to a point where you don't even think about it anymore, and you just do it, and you do it well. And the further you can get up that ladder and the more of these issues that you can iron out, that's when you start actually noticing yourself getting good and getting efficient at these things. A consistent posting schedule will actually force you to push past this perfectionism. The more you fall on your face, the quicker you'll learn how to stay on your feet. Consistent posting schedule will force you to push past that perfectionism and actually just put stuff out, and you won't have time to think about it. And ultimately, that is probably the best reason why you should start creating, even if no one's going to watch it or listen to it. You just can't spend too long on one idea. You simply don't have time. You just have to remember that you will always make something else, no matter how good you think that idea is at the time. It might be the best thing you've ever made at the time. You might think you're some protege and that you're never going to make anything as good as this, but it's simply not true, because you're always going to make something else. There's always going to be new ideas and new inspiration, and just it's never going to be the be all end all, that one project that you're working on. And if I'd have learned this 5 years ago, I would be so much further ahead than I am now. So that's why I'm putting this on film, you know what I mean? So that's why I'm recording this, that's why I'm making a video about this, because if I can teach one person to not make the same mistake I did, then all of this will be worth it, honestly. Make it the best you can and move on. Simple as that. Move on to make something better, move on to make something worse, move on to make something average. Just move on. It's the best thing that you can do. That is the best lesson I can give to anyone that's actually starting to follow their dreams and learn a hobby and actually put time and effort into something that they're passionate about. Make it, move on. Simple. Don't make the same mistakes I did for the past 5 years. The numbers game is one you can never win. Even if you went viral tomorrow and your video got 1,000 views, the day after you'd want the next one to get 500,000, then 1 million, and it just never ends. It never ends. It's a losing game. You just need to remember that every one of those people is a living, breathing person, again with stories and families and hopes and dreams, and just appreciate that they've taken the time out of their day to come and sit and just listen to you. If you work smart enough for long enough, the growth will compound and you'll gradually start getting closer to where you want to be. And take note, I said working smart enough, not working hard enough, because working hard doesn't get you anywhere if you're not pushing the needle in the directions it needs to go in, and actually taking the steps that are going to get you to where you need to be, not just working hard in the wrong directions and wasting your time. That's another video for another day anyway, we'll leave that there today. But yeah, just a thought to end on. Imagine that you were Mr. Beast anyway, and you couldn't go and get a coffee in the morning without being hounded by 1,000 screaming 13-year-olds just ruining your day. Like, surely there's some joy in anonymity, right? I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. If you've got time for another, I'll link one here or somewhere. I don't really know, but I'll put one up. I appreciate you taking this time. Bye bye.